So Manny, we can give people maybe 1 minute to let people still coming in,
Sure.
and then we should get started. Okay, why don't we get started? Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. First, thank for all the candidates who are willing to serve our community and for your time to join our forum. And also thank for all the participants from audience who joined this forum on the weekend. Over the past 4 years, CAAL has hosted a candidate forum, and CAAL PAC was established in 2017. And since then, CAAL and CAAL PAC jointly host the candidate forum as a platform to introduce our candidates and give them a chance to discuss issues affecting our community. And this event, this forum also offers our community an opportunity to listen, learn, and make informed voting decisions. And CAAL PAC's endorsement has consistently proved to be valuable for our candidates' campaigns. And due to the time constraint, at this forum, we will not include questions from the audience at this time, but we went through extensive collection of questions from our community. Among all the questions, we select the ones that most concern for the community. So once CAAL PAC make endorsement, we will have another opportunity for endorsed candidates to interact with our community. So today's forum consists of 3 sessions. It will start from the school committee, moderated by Weidong Wang, and the planning board session moderated by Yifang Gong, and followed by select board session moderated by Hua Wang. Without further ado, we will start, and I will be the timer.
Hi everyone. My name is Weidong Wang. I'm a member of CAAL and CAAL PAC. So I'll be the moderator for the school committee session. So we have 4 candidates for school committee this year. Sarah Carter, Larry Freeman, Eileen J, and Lana Panasuk. Just want to make sure that everyone understands that there are actually 2 races this year for school committee open positions. Larry, Eileen, and Nana are running for 2 opening seats for 3-year term positions. And Sarah is the only one running for the 1 2-year position. Since we have many candidates for today's forum, and for the sake of time management, and we want to make sure that we can wrap up the forum by 4 so that everyone can prepare for the Super Bowl tonight. And for the fact that Sarah is running uncontested, we have asked, and Sarah has graciously agreed, that she will only participate in the opening remark session, where she will have 3 minutes for her statement. After that, she will not be in the other Q&A sessions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening remark, and Sarah will have 3. And then for each candidate will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We have 3 questions, and then each candidate, other than Sarah, will have 1 minute closing remark. And we'll take turns for who starts first. And Melanie will be our timer, as mentioned already. So without further ado, let's get started. So for the first question, let's just go right to the high school building project, which is
Wait,
something that,
do you want to start with the opening statements for each
my
candidate?
bad, my bad, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, opening remarks session. Sarah, why don't you go first?
Thank you so much to CAAL for hosting this
Sorry,
forum.
should we highlight Sarah? Because I see.
Highlight, Sarah is being highlighted. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much to CAAL for hosting this forum, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some of my ideas. I welcome everyone to visit my website, sarahforlex.com, and if you're interested in finding out more about me, come to one of my upcoming events that are all on my website. Hello, my name is Sarah Carter, and I'm running for the 2-year school committee position. I am running because I believe Lexington has incredible potential to continue its tradition of educational excellence. As a forward-thinking community, we must ensure that our children are equipped with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in the future. While our educational traditions provide comfort, they alone cannot address the evolving needs of today's students. We must adapt and innovate to ensure our children are prepared for the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. I have dedicated much of my life to supporting students, families, and teachers in public education. I was a middle school and high school history teacher for many years. After receiving my master's in library science, I worked as a school librarian at the elementary level. In the years since my children have been part of Lexington Public Schools, I have volunteered in a variety of roles, beginning with Lex Fun. I am currently the co-president of the Clark PTO, vice president for mini grants for the LHS PTO, secretary for LEF, and school committee liaison for the Special Education Parents Advisory Council. Through my experience in these roles, I have learned how our schools operate day to day and gained valuable insight into both staff and family perspectives. If elected, I will be ready to serve on day one because I understand how our system works and how to be an effective champion for students. I am a parent of 3 children, a senior at Lexington High School, an 8th grader at Clark, and a 6th grader at Clark. Both volunteering and working in the schools have shaped my views on the roles of education in the lives of our young people. Putting all children first will be the guiding principle for any work that I do. My priorities as school committee members will be advocate for the new high school design that addresses our inadequate space, facilities, and security issues. Understand and address the space issues that disproportionately impact our special education students. Work to create a community-informed plan around technology use that provides guidance, access, and support to our young people. Enable teachers and departments across LPS to explore new curriculum ideas to meet the needs of our diverse student body. Ensure that data-driven evaluation processes are in place with clear, meaningful goals and measurable outcomes. Make myself available and accessible to listen to our community's concerns and student needs. A large part of making informed decisions is understanding the reality on the ground by hearing firsthand from students and parents. We are a community of diverse voices, and it will be my job to listen and advocate for all. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Larry, your 2-minute opening remark.
Good afternoon. Thank you to CAAL and PAC for hosting today. My name is Larry Freeman, and I am running for re-election to the Lexington School Committee. I work full-time as a project manager at a finance software company, and I'm the proud father of 2 children, one who attends Lexington High School. Over the past 3 years, I've had the privilege of making meaningful impacts on the lives of students. I have worked to ensure that every vote I cast prioritizes student success. I actively listen to feedback from students and community. This was demonstrated when I volunteered to be a school committee representative on a subcommittee that focused on creating a more inclusive school calendar. That subcommittee submitted a proposal to the school committee that included recognizing the Lunar New Year as a school holiday. When this proposal became before the school committee, I was honored to cast a yes vote. Lexington, we provide an excellent education, but we can always do better. I'm committed to making our district even stronger by ensuring that every student has access to resources and supports they need to excel, both academically and in life. This means fostering an environment where students, educators, and families are seen and supported. I support the Bloom proposal for a new Lexington High School. That's why I'm committed to balancing the need for a modern, well-equipped school with thoughtful financial planning to minimize the burden on taxpayers. We must invest wisely in a facility that reflects Lexington's continued commitment to academic excellence. I look forward to continuing this work. I look forward to your questions and earning your support in this upcoming election. Please cast a vote for Larry Freeman on March 3rd.
Thank you, Larry. Eileen, your 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you to CAAL and CALPAC for this forum. My name is Eileen J., and I'm running for re-election to the school committee. As the current chair with 9 years of experience, I bring the skills and proven leadership we need to navigate the complex issues ahead. Experience matters as we face some serious challenges around budgets, buildings, enrollment concerns, and MBTA rezoning. I've been managing tough issues for many years, and I have a solid grasp of school and municipal finance, operations, and facilities. This knowledge takes years to develop, but is crucial for navigating such complex issues. New members need time to come up to speed, but with so much at stake, we need seasoned, capable leaders. I'm committed to working hard to find solutions that balance the educational needs of students with the concerns of our residential taxpayers. Caring for students is at the heart of what I do. I'm always listening to students and taking their concerns to heart with every decision I make. I love the work on the school committee. I have a doctorate in education from Harvard, where I worked as an educational researcher, so my passion is around teaching and learning. On the school committee, I championed support for mental health. I advocated for a diversity curriculum that's now being implemented. I helped craft our LPS core values, such as we all belong and care for yourself and others. I'll focus on these priorities in my next term: to maintain the excellence of our schools while managing budgets, collaborate with the community to address school enrollment, ensure all students learn foundational skills in literacy, math, and core abilities, support students' emotional needs so they feel safe and know they belong, and provide equitable, inclusive education that serves our most vulnerable students. I love to listen to the members of the community, and I welcome hearing from you. Please learn more at my website, jforschoolcommittee.com, and I ask for your vote on Monday, March 3rd.
Thank you, Eileen. Nana, your 2 minutes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lana Panasiuk, and I'm mom of five kids. And I'll start with simple questions, but because I have experience, my oldest is old, like he's 38. So I have a view of the whole school system of Lexington. And my few very basic questions for you, please. What do you expect from school? In elementary school, your child should learn to read and develop strong work ethic by doing homework every day. In middle school, it's time to find what the children are good at. And how would you learn without knowing where you exceed the expectations? And if you are just meeting expectations, then maybe try different level of complexity class, or even different subject. In high school, you'd like your child to take their skills to the higher level, expand their knowledge to other horizons by taking electives. So by the time they're ready to leave your home, you feel confident that they will survive. They will be independent and build their own life with confidence. So I'd like our schools to provide these basic skills for your children and exceed your expectations. As a parent of 3 kids in middle and high school, I see current schooling firsthand. I compare their experience to that of my 2 older sons. For the past 26 years, I've been deeply involved in my children's education. I was leading science, math, and robotics clubs. I was coaching hockey and soccer and volunteering with more than 70 big backyard walks. I have a PhD in geophysics from MIT and MBA in entrepreneurship. All my life, I worked in science and technology, sensors, and medical devices. I am committed to using my experience to fix our schools. If elected, I will focus on accountability from the school committee to the public and from the superintendent to the committee. I will work to restore academic excellence and sound financial planning. Thank you.
Weidong, you're muted.
Thank you, Nana. So now let's go into questions. But first question, let's address the high school building issue that everyone is talking about today. The question is, will you support the Bloom design for the new high school building project? If yes, why is it better than other designs? And if not, what is the alternative plan that you think is better than the current one? And please outline the approach you think we should take, the timeline, and if possible, a rough cost estimate if you can. Thank you. And for this one, let's start with Larry. You have 2.5 minutes.
All right, thank you. Great question. The new high school is on the minds of everyone in our community, whether you have children in the schools or not. The cost associated with building a new Lexington High School, a $650 million project, which is just a rough estimate. We don't actually have, real estimates from contractors yet. So we're looking at, hopefully 100 million coming in from the state to help reduce that cost, and maybe another 100 million from different grants and foundations that will help support the town of Lexington in building a new high school. Yes, I do support the Bloom project on the proposed site. The Bloom project, it will address, safety concerns that we currently have in place with our existing building. And it is also designed to meet the educational platform and outlook for our Lexington students. Right now, we have a problem with being seriously over capacity. We don't have enough space to really expand the academic opportunities and arts as well, and as well as our athletic teams and physical components that we all know combine to create a successful student career. So that's why I support Bloom. I am definitely asking everyone in the community to support the Bloom project. When this comes before the town for a vote, I'm asking that everyone says yes. And we need a building that will support the type of education that we want to provide to our students. We have a great education. We provide a great education, and anyone who says that we do not provide a good education here at Lexington, I implore you to please go out and do some research, and you'll see that we are highly rated within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and within the country. We can provide a better education, but we need a better facility to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Eileen, your 2.5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I think it's been known for a very long time that we need a new high school due to the issues of overcrowding and especially the age of the building. I've been on the school committee long enough to realize that many times we have had concerns about the mechanics of this building. The HVAC is really, we keep our fingers crossed that it will even be able to continue. So I think that suggests that a new building is definitely needed, and whatever is built must meet the educational needs of our students. That is the foremost reason for having our new facilities meet those educational needs. And that is something that the state will also be looking at as they review any proposals. I'm afraid, unfortunately, as an abutter to the high school property, I'm not allowed to answer specific questions about the high school project itself. So I'm really not able to answer this specific question or weigh in on a particular design. I have been abiding by the state laws in this regard and have been recusing myself from school committee and financial deliberations on the project. However, I will talk a little bit about the MSBA process. MSBA is the state agency that offers the state reimbursement when towns are brought into their pipeline. It is the school, in their process, it is the school building committee that is the decision-making body for the high school project, not the school committee. The school building committee is a multi-stakeholder group that works with the designer to arrive at a preferred plan. So in actuality, the school committee, although it is a school project, does not play a particularly large role in the specific details of the design or the construction of the building. However, as we know, there's a lot involved in the work of the school committee. The school committee is, the high school project is just one small part of what we do. It encompasses much more than that project. And I believe that I have the track record of working with a wide range of issues on the school committee. One last thing I will say is that in the MSBA process, one preferred schematic design is submitted to the MSBA. They do not entertain alternate proposals, so they will be reviewing and for approval of the design that will be submitted by the town.
Thank you, Eileen. Nada?
So the school committee has faced overcrowding. Our school committee has faced overcrowding at LHS for 9 years. It didn't just happen yesterday. It's been there for 9 years, and I know it because I have kids in the system. And we all agree, our entire town, all citizens agree that overcrowding affects quality of education. The electives replaced by the study halls. And what is study hall? Study halls is non-instructional hour, which kids are forced to take once or twice a day, every day, 5 times a week. So everybody heard about this. We need to solve the overcrowding issue. And that's my #1 priority. However, Bloom proposal fails to address overcrowding and cost, while raising concerns about environmental impact and preserving our heritage. It has only deepened community division. LHS is already at overcapacity by 600 students, and the situation will only worsen as more students move into rezoned multifamily units. Bloom's 2,400 student capacity plan, which is exactly what we have right now, our current enrollment is 2,400, would be overcapacity from the day one in 5 years. We build it, we open the doors, and it will be in 5 years, it will be overcapacity with at least 600 more students than it can accommodate. Instead, we could add 1 academic block to the current campus, which would ease overcrowding in 2 years and manage student influx, and even support doubling of the school. Construction costs for a college-like style school are very high. A state typically offers 30% subsidy for upgrades, but Bloom's plan only qualifies for 15% subsidy due to non-academic spaces. In contrast, if we add academic building on the current campus, it will qualify for the full 30% subsidy to ease our community burden by the same $100 million. Bloom will have a long impact on our town, on building on the fields and wetlands, demolishing current campus, and erasing generations' history. It will also split the central open space and athletic facilities. However, a staged approach will keep the project on current campus, preserving athletic facilities with minimal demolition. The approach would prioritize academics, teachers, and community while respecting environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. All right. So the next question is, So we know high school is in everyone's mind, but for school committee, there are other priorities for sure. So in your mind, if you get elected, what are the top priority for you in the school committee? And what's your action plan? And we start with Eileen.
Oh, well, there are many to choose from. I think some of the important ones we have been working on and attending to lately involve early elementary literacy. It's obviously a very fundamental skill that I believe is a responsibility of our and every school system to make sure our students have foundational skills. That includes skills in reading, skills in math, and other core skills that are needed for learning. Um, some of what has been happening lately is that the district has been revising its approach to teaching early reading to include a lot more phonics instruction at the younger ages. There's also been a lot of implementation of assessment tools to catch students early on when they are having difficulties with reading and making sure that they get the services they need to improve their skills in that. Because we really don't want anyone going through those early ages and finding that they're just not up to speed in those skills, because reading is a skill that's that that is foundational to everything that is done in school. So we on the school committee are asking for more of that data to examine that issue and make sure that we are doing right by students in that regard. I'm trying to think of another. I guess I'd say the other issue that's really dear to my heart and that I have worked on a lot in trying to get implemented is our diversity, equity, inclusion curriculum, where students are not only learning about different perspectives and cultures, but we are actually implementing this year in elementary and will soon be doing in middle school actual lessons around learning about one's own identity, understanding that there are different identities and different cultures and different beliefs and different perspectives from other people. And as in these lessons, they actually talk to students in a very age-appropriate way about understanding what's the same about people, what's different about people, and really finding a way to gain some acceptance and really adhere to our "we all belong" core value.
Thank you, Eileen. Nana, your turn next.
The highest priorities, and I've outlined already with the question marks at my opening, which let me go just one by one. First and most is academic excellence. That is the highest priority of the school committee, period. What do I mean by this? And what are the steps? In elementary school, the kids should learn to read. There are plenty of very successful techniques which are not used, and we need to implement them in school. The same in elementary school, kids should have a homework. It doesn't have to be long, 10 minutes, but it will help them to build the strong work ethics. It's not that they go into high school and all of a sudden there is hours and hours of homework and they cannot handle it. We have to build it gradually. Middle school. Middle school should have a grades which would address exceeding expectations, not just meeting, exceeding. The kids, that's the way how you learn. You know your limits. You have to get close to that and then decide what to do. The grades should include this exceeding expectations. And the levels of difficulty of the classes have to be introduced back to the middle school. We used to have 2 or 3 levels in math where the teachers would recommend and the family would recommend placing a child at different level so that they can feel comfortable in accepting the instructions. Some kids cannot accept when it's too high of instruction or when it's too low of an instruction. Now, going into the high school, once we relieve the overcrowding, we should expand the electives choice because right now it's minimized. this is academic excellence. The second one is accountability. It's very important because the school committee is like a board of directors. It has a fiducial responsibility towards the people, stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? That's us. They have to report to us. And the school committee needs to make the superintendent accountable to the school committee. It's like hiring the CEO. And we have to see this relationship implemented in our community. And finally, curriculum transparency. Melanie, I didn't see the timer. Maybe you can erase it.
Yeah.
But finally, curriculum transparency. Parents, we have to know what our kids are learning. And it has to be, we don't have to ask for that. It has to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. Larry?
Thank you for the question. That's a great question, and I'm really glad you asked it because I think in some of these forums during this campaign season, we really focused on the new high school primarily. But as a school committee member, like Eileen mentioned, we see, and there are a lot of things across the district that we want to improve on. And we look at educating students, from a more holistic view. Academic excellence, that's 100% what we want to maintain here in Lexington. A new high school would help enable that. Right now, we do have a capacity issue, so class sizes are limited at the high school. I think, we need to work on that at the high school and keep pushing our academic excellence forward. But just as important as academic excellence is that we need Lexington High School graduates to be able to go off to college or to whatever dream they have in their head with the tools necessary for them to reach that vision that they have for their future. We need our students to be able to go and exceed in college, in society, in a multicultural world, which requires that we have to have a correct and accurate curriculum for all students at our high school. That's just critical. Once our students leave our district and the safety of what we've created here in Lexington, we need them to also be functional adults, to be able to mix and mingle in the world that we all live in. And literacy, that's a huge issue we have here in our district, and it's a long-term issue. Unfortunately, there is no one way to teach literacy that is going to accommodate and get every reader on grade level. I think we here in Lexington, we need to continue exploring with an open mind, exploring the different options that the community brings to us, and really examine how we can incorporate some of those things into our curriculum so that every student is at least at grade level. And here in Lexington, we know we don't want grade level. We want beyond grade level.
Thank you, Larry. So as we can see, every candidate brings their priorities, and I'm sure school committee will have its priorities. And as with every other town's board and committee, decisions are made on consensus. So what do you bring and how do you plan, if elected, to navigate competing priorities and opinions from different perspectives to get things done? For this one, we'll start with Nana.
Did you say Lana? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Nana. Yeah.
I think I missed the first part of your question. I'm sorry, I tuned out. Can you repeat the first part?
Yes. So we heard that there are different priorities, and school committee can have its own priorities. And we know the way the board and committee works is by consensus. So what do you bring and how do you plan to navigate competing priorities and to deal with opinions from different perspectives to get things done?
Yeah, thank you for repeating. This is very important that 5 people in the committee have different skills and different abilities to tackle one or another problem. So what I bring to the what I will bring to the committee if you guys elect me, I have a very technical and analytical mind. I usually approach the task by reading the basics first, educating myself, but then calling other people and expressing their opinion. And I would usually go and test, like, yeah, I would ask the question and then hear the feedback and then would iterate several times. The iteration is very important. And again, it doesn't have to be only within the committee. We can discuss stuff within the committee, but then we have to loop back to the community, because our community in Lexington is highly educated, and we have experiences through many areas. So we need to get this knowledge in order for the community to help the school committee make an appropriate decision. Within the school committee, I also bring I have 5 children raised in Lexington, and 2 of them already passed the system. 3 are currently in the system. This is very important part because I feel the implementation of the policies through my kids every night, every day. So this is very important, and it's a part of the democracy. Say we have 5 people, if 4 thinks one way and the other thinks another way, and we cannot convince that one, but majority wins. It's important to discuss it and openly ask questions. Even if something is bothering you, I would prefer to hear this from you and engage in the open discussion. Like we are humans, we're all different. We all come from different cultures, a different state of the life. But if we are open to discussing it and raising the question without being afraid of sticking out and being different, that will come up with a good decision, which everyone will then support. And if something we've done incorrectly, then the feedback from parents will bring us back to our senses and say, like, okay, wait a second, okay, I've been wrong. Let's reconsider and let's create the new environment for our kids. But being flexible, as teachers taught us in the elementary school, is awesome.
Thank you, Lana. Larry, your turn.
Great question. Thank you to CAAL and CAAL-PAC. You all really put a lot of thought into these questions, and that's very appreciated. I feel like school committee, as in any other situation in life, it requires collaboration. It requires that you value the opinions of others, even if they don't agree with yours. And then you work towards a consensus. But open dialogue, valuing other people's opinions and their thoughts, lived experiences, you can't devalue what other people have been through and how they live, because it has shaped their perspectives. So it's very important that the school committee, we remain very collaborative, even if we don't always 100% agree with another view. Because what do we have at stake? We have students. Our decisions impact the lives of little human beings that as a parent, we want our kids to go out and be strong and able to advocate for themselves. And I think as a school committee member, we should be able to do that and demonstrate that to the student body. It's one thing to rock the boat, which I think, we all as school committee members have certain things we're just very passionate about, and we do rock the boat. But it's also important to know we don't want to turn the boat all the way over because the students lose. It's critical that we keep school committee collaborative. We value the opinions of our students. We value the student experience, and we value feedback from the community, from parents. It requires collaboration from all of these different team members, and working as one. That's how we're going to push this district forward. We're going to make this district stronger. And that's why we are highly regarded today the way we are, because we are very collaborative here in Lexington and we value each other. We value our cultural differences, our learning differences, and that's what we need to continue to do if we want to stay on top like we are now.
Thank you, Larry. Eileen, your 2.5 minutes.
Yes, I agree. This is a very thoughtful question and very relevant to the role of school committee members as representatives of our community and working on behalf of students, as Larry was saying. Um, I actually very much agree with what Larry said about the fact that it's for the school committee as a board itself. There are individual members coming with very different experiences, very different views, but we do need to collaborate. That's our function as a committee. I actually welcome the fact that individual members come very different experiences and different perspectives. We all have our own things that we're passionate about and that we try to advocate for. And I find I actually learn a lot when I listen to other members and I absorb what they have to say. So I think that's a very healthy thing. I also think that it's a responsibility of school committee members to be representing all students in our school district and all families and all community members and all educators. No one should be there just to represent their own interests or to represent a particular group in our town. I've always taken that responsibility very carefully to make sure I'm thinking of everyone as I make those decisions. I think the other aspect of it is that school committee members are the liaison, the conduits to the administration and the educators. And so when you talk about multiple perspectives, I always take the student's perspective first, but I also value very much the educator's point of view. And when it comes to the community, I think we do make a lot of efforts to reach out to the community with forums or public hearings to get that feedback. That's very, very important to all of us. I always welcome people reaching out to me and telling me what their point of view is, even if it's different from the majority of what we've heard. We have to hear all of those opinions. Sometimes I feel like it's difficult for some people to, okay, I'll stop. That's okay. I'm fine.
Thank you, Eileen. All right, so those are the 3 questions. Now let's move on to the closing remark. And so I think we go back to Larry. 1 minute.
All right, thank you. I am grateful to the rich cultural diversity in our community, and I deeply appreciate the contributions of the Chinese culture and education that is shared. The values of respect, perseverance, and academic excellence that are deeply rooted in Chinese traditions enrich our schools in meaningful ways. When attending CAAL events, I always feel welcomed and I feel seen. It was truly an honor to play a role in recognizing the importance of Lunar New Year. This celebration is not only a time for family, reflection, and renewal, but an opportunity for us all to learn that cultural traditions make our community stronger. Seeing this recognition come to life is a reminder that when we uplift and respect each other's cultures, we create a more inclusive and enriched society for future generations. Visit my website at Larry for Lexington, that's the number 4, to contact me, endorse me, and please cast a vote for me on March 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Eileen, you're next.
Yes, thank you. And thank you once again to CAAL and CALPAC for inviting us in and letting us tell our stories and our perspectives and our views of what it means to be a school committee member. I will continue what I was talking about with regard to listening to the community. I think it's an important thing for us to recognize that although we often hold public events, public hearings, we have community speak sessions all the time. I think very often there are some people in our community who don't feel free to come up and speak in front of a microphone. And that's where I really encourage everyone to reach out to us individually. I personally love talking to members of the community and welcome a simple email in order to start a conversation. And it can be a private conversation with people. I will hope to be having things like office hours to be able to let people come drop in and meet with me. Again, I appreciate everything that you have allowed us to share today, and I encourage people and would be very grateful for your vote on Monday, March 3rd.
Thank you, Eileen. Nana?
In conclusion, so I talked about academic excellence and about public accountability. 3 more things I would like to add and just plant it in your mind. The teachers. Teachers are the most valuable asset in school. What do our kids remember? The great teachers. We need to support them and pay their salary and make it competitive salary. Number 2, I'd like to introduce life skills classes like financial, technical, whatever will help our kids beyond academic exceed in this life. The third one, sports. We need to make it available for all levels, not excluding, such as tennis or swimming. And finally, communication is a key. I will be there for you, but I will need you to come and tell me what doesn't work so that we can fix it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. So this concludes our school committee session. Thank you, Sarah, Larry, Eileen, and Nana. So next, Yifan Gong will be moderating the planning board session.
So yeah, Eva and also Tom and I think Tina, can you also turn on your camera now?
Hello.
Okay, yeah, Eva, we can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I cannot see
No,
Tina and
all your
Tom.
panelists are here. Tom is here, Tina is here, and Melody is here as your timer.
Okay,
So
great.
your
So,
team is here.
sorry. Okay, good afternoon. Yeah, thanks for Tina and Tom for coming for this forum. So we have the format we have is first is we have 2 minutes for everyone to introduce yourself, and then followed by 3 questions. And each question have 2.5 minutes, and then finally you will have your one closing statement. So let's start with Tina, lady first.
Thank you, Yvonne. And thank you to CAAL and CAAL-PAC for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Tina McBride. I was born and raised in Lexington, then returned to my beloved hometown with my husband to raise our family. Excuse me. For over a decade, I have attended planning board meetings, advocated for our town and residents, and co-authored multiple amendments and articles. I grew up in an economically diverse Lexington and have watched Lexington's housing become less diverse. And it is concerning to me. We are facing our most significant redevelopment period in 75 years, and the current pace of development under the MBTA bylaw is untenable. Seniors and folks in the middle class are being priced out of Lexington, and tax increases will be difficult for many. I have a solid understanding of Lexington's zoning economics and good government practices. Unlike the cluster housing study group, I anticipated the impact and consequences of the massive zoning changes proposed by Article 34 2 years ago and voted no, after supporting a failed amendment to reduce it. This year, I support Article 2 to scale back MBTA zoning. We have already met and exceeded the state's requirements. On the planning board, I will continue to advocate for more transparency in the planning process and work with the board and staff to craft zoning and regulations that will plan for and require win-win results, including more truly affordable housing, allowing human scale buildings in neighborhoods, tree canopies integrated throughout developments. These topics are not often discussed on the planning board. I will change the conversations. I ask for your vote for the planning board because all your voices matter. Thank you.
Okay, Tom?
Hi, thank you, Yifeng. My name is Tom Scheipel, and again, thank you to CAAL and CalPAC for organizing this forum. As a candidate for the planning board, I believe that with care, we can have a town that balances our aspirations for the future with our need to maintain ongoing financial stability. A quick background about myself. I studied electrical engineering and computer science at MIT and UC Berkeley and worked in the computer industry as a software engineer. I've lived in Lexington for 16 years, and I was heavily involved in the youth soccer community, serving as president of the Lexington United Soccer Club and leading the private effort to install lights on one of the fields at Lincoln Park back in 2017. I was first elected to town meeting in 2018, and in addition, I now serve on the town's bicycle advisory committee and the zoning board of appeals. The hot button topic right now is the MBTA multifamily housing. The projects in the pipeline provide much needed housing for many different use cases, such as young families, seniors who want to downsize, grandparents who want to live near their kids, or divorced parents who want to stay close to their families. In addition, it has added about 160 units of affordable housing to people whose household income is less than 80% of the average for this area. However, it is a lot of development in a short time, and thus I support Article 2 at special town meeting to greatly reduce further development for now. Nonetheless, I don't think Article 2 is the last word on this issue. The current bylaw has flaws which Article 2 does not address. If elected, I want to improve the MBTA bylaw to get projects that fit nicely in Lexington at a pace we can handle. Planning is an analysis-intensive activity, but it also requires an ability to translate diverse resident priorities into policies that can be implemented. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so the question section, so you probably all know what kind of question you are facing. But let's start. The first one is, it's of course it's the MBTA zoning issue that everyone's talking about today. The town meeting 2024 passed Article 34 to comply with the state requirements under the MBTA Community Zoning Act. Now we have the upcoming Go to scale back. What happened in your review and what lessons have you learned? How will you vote for Article 2 next month, and what will you do on planning if elected, if Article 2 passed or not? And Tom?
Great, thank you, Yifeng. So as I mentioned, I support Article 2. I think clearly the rate of development, the pace of development is much larger than expected. And I want to just go back to 2023 when the article was passed. Myself and two other town meeting members filed an amendment to actually phase in development over 5 years. The first half in 23 and the second half in 2028. We eventually withdrew that amendment to join forces with 12 other town meeting members, including Ms. McKenna, who's running for select board. She was organizing the effort, and Ms. McBride, as she mentioned. And what resulted there was to reduce the multifamily housing to just 134 acres instead of 228. So the intent was really to start slow. But in retrospect, even that proposal may have been too ambitious, and in fact, would have led to 70% of the housing units being proposed today. So in order to put another number on it, a lot of folks have heard about this theoretical build-out capacity of 12,000 units. If our amendment that Tina and I voted for actually passed, it would have only reduced that theoretical build-out capacity to 9,000 units. So in the end, I voted for Article 34 and Ms. McBride voted against it. But if the amendment that we both supported had been successful, we would have been looking at essentially almost as much development as we have today, and we would be faced with the same situation of trying to scale it back. So it's just to say that we can't always foresee the rate of development when zoning changes are made, even if the desire is to go slow. So now we understand better how dense these developments will be and how attractive it is for landowners to sell. And so it makes sense right now to right size the zoning. I have a bunch of ideas in mind that I'd like to implement in terms of where the zones should be located, and also dimensional controls to control the massing of the building, open space requirements, change in height, setbacks, whatever we want to do to see developments that I think would fit nicely into the landscape that we have right now. I don't want to shut down all future development. I would like to see some development continue, but in much smaller projects and at a more measured pace. Thank you.
Tina?
Thank you. Excuse me. In response to the question, but also to Tom's comments, there is nothing unforeseeable about Article 34. Many residents and town meeting members, including myself, foresaw and warned of the consequences of these rash zoning changes. Excuse me. Planning takes knowledge and understanding of Lexington zoning, economics, and good government. When faced with the unknown, zoning needs to be thoughtful, purposeful, and incremental. Prepare for unanticipated consequences. Even though I support a 50-acre commitment, I was a vocal opponent of Article 34 bylaw that overcommitted the state requirement multiple times. There is reason that the state's requirement from each of the 177 communities did not exceed 10% of their current housing. Because there are so many unknowns, we need a process that allows us to test the plan like a pilot first. We need to see what works and what doesn't work and what needs to be adjusted. It has to be incremental, and we can't deregulate first and then adjust. These are people's homes and lives. They shouldn't need to spend hours and their money fighting for what has been taken from them. Part of the biggest issue that I had was, in addition to a lot of dimensional controls being released, we had 1.5 years before the state's deadline. We could have gotten it right. Voting no was not about against more housing, it was for housing, but in a responsible way. I will definitely work to increase setbacks because I am a big tree advocate for the climate, for physical and mental health, not just in conservation land, but on the streets and around buildings. We should demand that we put our money where our mouth is. We cannot get what we don't demand. And there's a way that we can get more affordable housing moving forward using different tools. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. And the second question is, with ongoing discussion around the zoning change, including those related to the MBTA overlay zoning and the potential development in key areas, how do you plan to ensure that the new development is well integrated with the town's existing infrastructure, promotes sustainability, and reflects needs of the current and future Lexington community? And Tina?
Thank you. Yes, this is why zoning needs to be incremental. Baby steps to see what's working. One of the things about the MBTA zoning bylaw is that it was by right. The other was that at the time when it first was presented to Lexington, if there was first floor commercial space and a builder wanted to put residential in its place, we were not allowed to ask for to retain that commercial space. Commercial space is important because it has a higher tax rate for Lexington. Part of the problem with passing MBTA communities, when we did, we had to add incentives, height incentives, to ask that developers retain that retail on the first floor. In the year and a half that we would have had to pass the MBTA communities, the state reconsidered and said, you don't have, if you have retail, you can demand that it remains retail. So we gave away a lot of density. It was a missed opportunity for us. We gave a lot of away a lot of density by allowing height. And the density requirements ballooned from there. The state originally said that there was a minimum of 15 units per acre. And with some of the developments that we see that are planned, there is as much as 80 units per acre. In some, there are 40 units per acre. That was a big mistake. And again, it's because we rushed in and we did not treat zoning with respect and the incremental aspect that it requires. Part of what is a big deal for me is green spaces. We underestimate the value of mature trees on heat island effect. A lot of the reduced setbacks are going to contribute to barren landscapes for us. Trees are very important as far as managing floodwaters, something that we really need to think about in this climate. Thank you. I'll stop.
Okay, great. Tom?
Yeah, so Tina points out a lot of useful suggestions of things we can do to improve the bylaw. I just want to reiterate that the amendment that she and I and 11 other town meeting members worked on together and that we both supported at the time had a lot of those flaws that she's pointing out. And that, you know, now we've learned a lot and we should go back and make changes. And I definitely want to be part of a planning board to go in and do that work. In terms of integrating these projects in, so I've been doing some work. I've talked to most of the department heads in the town to understand what the impacts of the zoning of this new development will be. For example, the police chief, his main concern is enforcing parking. And if, you know, people are parking illegally, but otherwise he just sees a normal increase in the rate of calls, the same nature of calls. And so he may need to hire, you know, some more officers. So those types of issues need to be addressed at each department to figure out how much additional capacity they need to add to accommodate the new residents. I talked to the head of DPW and our town engineer about water, sewer, and stormwater. And one thing interesting I learned is that for water supply and sewage, the developer is on the hook for maintaining the capacity of the system. Their responsibility does not end at the curb. They have to keep the capacity, keep the system functioning throughout at their cost. So I don't see that as an issue. In terms of stormwater, there's very strict requirements that Lexington has in place to make sure that there's no more stormwater running off the property than there was before the development commenced. And so I think that's important. School enrollment is probably the biggest question. And I've done some research. The 60% of the 1,100 units in the pipeline are 1-bedrooms or studios. And we have historical data for existing apartments and condominiums in Lexington that show that 1-bedrooms produce about 0.1 students in the system. And so I'm confident in the school department's recent projections, which if you extrapolate a bit, you get out to about 500 new students across all 13 grades, about 40 students a grade. So I think we will in fact be able to accommodate. So I'm not too worried about these first 1,100 being able to absorb this into our town's operations, but I think we do need to moderate the pace going forward.
Okay, great. Last question. So beyond the specific MBA zoning issue, if elected, what will you do to make Lexington a better place to live or do business? What will be your priorities and what is your plan to achieve them? Why will it work? Okay, let's, Tom?
Yes, great. So there's a couple other bylaws that we have, zoning bylaws that I think need to be looked at again. One of them is something called special residential development, which allows kind of small scale cluster housing. I think there's a couple of flaws in that bylaw that need to be addressed to reduce the amount of floor area that can be produced in those developments so that they don't impact the neighbors as much. The second one is actually floor area of single family homes. This is something that we addressed in 2023 by trying to reduce the scale of the new McMansions, if you will. But we missed an important point about how floor area is measured in a home with respect to garages. With respect to basements, covered porches, and whatnot. And that bylaw has not led to the desired effect of reducing the massing that you experience from the street level. So I'd like to look at that. The other thing that's vitally important is that we make sure that we are permitting every opportunity possible for commercial developers to develop real estate. These big lab buildings are absolutely cash cows for tax revenues. The new lab building on Waltham Street, just near the Waltham town line, 1050 Waltham Street, that single building is valued at $106 million. And commercial pays a tax rate of almost twice that. So if you do the math, that's kind of like $200 million worth of homes that one building is generating in tax revenue. So we need to do everything possible to make sure that we are attracting that type of development. And one thing that I'd like to do that's actually already covered in Article 2 is to remove the MBTA zoning districts from Hartwell Avenue to make sure that those properties remain available for commercial development in the future of higher value commercial uses such as lab buildings. So that would be the main things that I see that I'd like to do going forward. Thank you.
Okay, Tina?
Thank you. I guess a lot of this comes down to accountability. When we think that we know better than the state and we push our ideas, we tend to make mistakes if we're not listening carefully. There were a lot of red flags that were going up, and a lot of people were ignoring, particularly the Lexington Cluster Housing Study Group, pushing for the passage of 34, and even within the study group, pushing for things that I would have liked to have done better. We definitely do need to look at the allowances of the FAR in single-family residences. Part of the effort to take the permitting process out of the special permit residential development was the argument that they were not appealing enough for developers to use. If we address the FAR of single-family residences and the allowances there, we can make it more enticing for developers to use the Article 33 from 2013, from 2023. My immediate action is going to be to ensure that Article 2 passes, and that any amendments to it do not undercut it. It's really important that we address the comprehensive plan and listen to the concerns of Lexington's residents. And I think a lot of that was not addressed properly in Article 34. What was being said as priority was not actually what we were seeing in the detail of Article 34. And so a lot of work needs to be done there to address those issues. Thinking about green space, it is really important. The idea that relying solely on building flood mitigation systems is not really enough. And we undercut so many of the other positives of what green spaces and mature trees do for us. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the final stage is the concluding statement. 1 minute. So let's start with Tom.
Thank you, Yifeng. One of the things that I think people talk a lot about is how to make housing more affordable in Lexington to get a greater diversity of people living here, which I support. But unfortunately, we're living in a time when market rate housing in Lexington is not affordable for people on modest incomes. Land values in Lexington are just too high. So the best the market can do is to really offer smaller units at lower price points, which the MBTA housing is in fact doing in abundance. I mentioned earlier about all the one-bedroom units coming online. To get truly affordable housing at scale really requires government subsidies, and there just aren't enough dollars being committed to make that happen. In closing, many of us have strong feelings about the kind of town we want to live in, some of which is affected by external market forces we can't control. But the planning board can, with care, make an important difference in shaping our environment to achieve as many of our town priorities as possible. I would appreciate your vote on March 3rd, and I would love to hear from any of you individually. Please reach out to me, and I'm available to chat anytime you'd like. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tina?
Thank you. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to get some of my ideas out here. With care is the most important part. The approach of massively deregulate first and see how it goes and then adjust later is simply not good planning. And it's going to end up costing the taxpayers and the town millions of dollars. We know that none of the images used in the presentations were actually what we were looking for. I know these issues and have been involved for many years, and I am your advocate. I will deliver foresight and transparency in the planning process. I will work with all constituencies to deliver thoughtful, measured planning for Lexington. I will never lose sight of that. I appreciate the time, and I ask for your vote for Lexington. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tina
Thank
and
you.
Tom.
Thank you.
And I hope you all have a great election and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Yifeng. Bye.
Okay, at this moment, can we have all the, select board candidate turn on your camera? And let's see, we'll go through some technical. So I will be this is, let's see, so, okay, do I have everybody? So this is a Juan. I will be
can't hear
moderating
from
this
mine.
session, but I'm also the Zoom administrator here, so I will make sure that things are done. Let's see. Okay, so over here, and okay. All right. Okay. Do we see everybody here? I think so.
No.
I don't see
No,
Patrick.
no, we have one more person. Yes. Where's Patrick? Sorry. Okay, so Patrick, can you turn on your, let's see.
No, I can't.
Oh, you cannot. Let me do that for you. Okay, so.
But you know, very often I'm not allowed to speak, so this is no news. Thank you.
Are you here? Yes. Okay.
I am here.
Okay, good. Yeah, so all right. So yeah, actually, so before we get started, and I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be addressing everybody by your first name. I hope that's okay. So Patrick, Benita, Don, Joe, and Manali again will be our timekeeper. And as with other sessions, many of you, thank you for staying here for the other sessions as well. So we will have each of you will have a 2-minute opening statement, and then we'll ask 3 questions, and there's a 2.5 minutes for each question, and then we'll have a 1-minute concluding remarks by each of you. So again, thank you for serving Lexington, or thank you for making yourself available and to run, and for this important. And I feel like this is a Super Bowl Sunday, and this is Lexington's Super Bowl. So we'll get started. Yeah, so we're gonna get started. You're gonna take turns. So when I do it, so first part will be the opening statement. We'll have Benita go first. Thank you.
Thank you, Hua. And good afternoon, and thank you to the CAAL team for this valuable opportunity, and fellow candidates and everyone for being here today. My name is Vinita Kumar, and I'm running for a position on the select board because I care deeply about our town and truly believe that our best days are ahead of us. I'm a new campaigner. I don't have stories from the past, but what I do have is a vision for the future and the relevant skills to move us forward together and in a constructive way. As a new candidate, I feel compelled to tell you a little bit about my credentials. As a management consultant and business leader, I know how to analyze complex issues, balance data with real life needs, and bring diverse groups together to find solutions. Halfway across the world from my place of origin, I value our community as my own family and have been engaged in various voluntary roles. I've served as town meeting member for 3 terms. I've been the TMMA chair and appointed twice on the town manager search committee. I'm prepared for the job, having championed civic engagement and advocated for key issues affecting our town. I've also served the LEF board and the LHS PTO. In 2020, I was a core team member of Article 8, meant to promote equity. Lexington is an exceptional town, but we face pressing challenges, particularly around affordability, aging infrastructure, and lack of economic diversity. The decisions on reining in the MBTA Act and addressing the tax issues of our residents and small businesses are the kind of issues I would like to focus on. Along with my experience in town government and my professional skills, I bring a different lived experience led by the desire to create shared wins. I will bring a new voice and a fresh perspective to help us build on our excellence. I invite you to join me in building a forward-thinking community that fosters innovation while honoring our rich history, a place where residents of all ages and abilities enjoy a deep sense of connection. I hope to earn your vote on March 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita. Don.
Thank you. And thank you to my fellow candidates for joining me. And thank you especially to CAAL and CALPAC for hosting this. But more importantly, I want to thank you for everything your organization has done for Lexington. Since your inception, you have invested yourselves in our town as cultural leaders and become pillars of community engagement. You've educated me on how to better engage with the Asian community and during my time on the tourism committee as we work to welcome visitors from across the globe. Your work continues to be a vital asset to all of us. My own background, many of you know, I moved to Lexington at the age of 5, met my husband in 2nd grade at the old Franklin Elementary School. We always said we'd get married, have 2 children, and live on the Battle Green, and we do. For as long as I can remember, my passion has been serving the needs of the residents of Lexington, and I take pride in being someone who gets things done for Lexington. I got into this race because we have serious challenges right now and need strong leadership to meet that moment. So far, I have knocked on over 500 doors in this campaign and listened to what the issues matter most to the residents. They include the consequences of passing Article 34, the cost and direction of the high school project, the need to make Lexington more affordable for all, and a feeling that town government is not in tune with the needs of the residents. When working effectively, the Select Board is listening to residents to create policies that reflect our shared community values. As long as I have been a public servant, I've been committed to that guiding principle, and I will bring that back to the board as we work together to meet these challenges. I would be honored to earn your endorsement.
Thank you, Don. Patrick.
Thank you, everybody, for organizing this. I should tell you a little bit about my background. I come from only a quarter world away, that is from Paris, France, where I grew up. But what's important to know is that my parents came from another third of a world away, that is from Romania after the war. And they came to Paris with 2 suitcases and $20. And I was fortunate enough to, I suppose, be a good student. And so I attended France's MIT. So to me, numbers are extremely important. With this, I moved to Massachusetts in 1982 and to Lexington in 1999 for the schools, and strictly for the schools. And I quickly became involved in town government because I was fortunate enough to help write the very first tree bylaw in Massachusetts that provided some protection for trees, which are for me very important. I then spent 15 years in town meeting from 2000 to 2015. And because of my background, I got very involved with the budget. As a result of that, you will see in my ads soon that I view myself as a fiscally responsible, data-driven leader. And that, I believe, is what the town needs. I'm running because we're in the midst of two major issues, which should have been managed better. And I will say in closing that as an Aquarius in the Western zodiac, I am somebody who thinks about the future. And I just discovered while listening to my other colleagues here that as somebody who was born in the year of the horse, I just posted in the chat what in the Chinese zodiac, which I know little about, I also am, and I think that can help our town.
Thank you, Patrick. Joe, please.
Thank you, Hua and CAAL for hosting and for the attendees to take the time to hear me and the other candidates. I'm Joe Pato, and I'm running for re-election because I'm passionate about civic engagement. Since first being elected in 2013, I've served as board chair for 3 terms, during which I've stressed collaboration and finding constructive solutions to complex issues. I strongly believe in inclusivity and the power of community. It's important that everyone feels heard, valued, and empowered to participate in shaping our future. That's why I've worked hard to be transparent and engage with residents through weekly meetings and accessible communication. When key issues arise, I've hosted public forums to create opportunities for dialogue. I don't do drama, I do my homework. I apply deep analytic skills developed in my professional life as a research computer scientist at HP Labs and MIT. My initiatives are based on data and informed by our shared community values. Throughout my tenure, I've focused on key priorities, advancing sustainability and climate action, ensuring sound fiscal policy, and maintaining strong public safety and high-quality public services. I'm passionate about how we lead locally to drive meaningful global change. My skills and track record are vital for addressing the challenges facing us. My priorities are to support a high school project that is fair to both students and taxpayers, to right-size MBTA zoning to better manage growth, to sustain a bright future through prudent fiscal policies and thoughtful data-driven strategic planning, to continue to enact sound climate and environmental initiatives. It's been my honor to serve you, and I hope to earn you one of your votes to continue this important work together. I'm Joe Pato, and my website is joepato.org. And to chime in with my other candidates, I was born in Coimbra, Portugal, not quite half world away.
Thank you, everyone. So now we'll get to ask the first question. And the things we're not repeating questions for each of you, and then you're gonna take turn to answer them. So please hear me well. So the first question is before we dive into the 2 topics that everyone is talking about, and please tell us in your mind that what are the core values for Lexington, and how do they help you decide your top priorities on the select board if elected, and for the coming years, and what are they? Thank you. So we'll go with Don, we'll go first. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One of my core values is doing what we can to make Lexington as affordable as possible. As we're going to talk about the high school project later, we have significant costs that are coming down the pike. We've talked about the MBTA zoning, and we'll talk about that as well, which is costing tremendously. The high school project alone will cause an increase of 10 to 14% in people's taxes just to pay for this building. And that is before we consider the impacts of the MBTA or anything else. I've spent a lot of time in Lexington building the visitors-based economy, which is one method of helping to bring in tax revenue that lowers the taxes for the residents. And we have been able to triple the hotel and meals tax in order to add money to the budget. There are plenty of economic development things we need to do. A good, vibrant center makes a huge difference. We still have not enough of the type of businesses that draw people to town, and we need to do very good work working on that. We need to empower our economic development officer to, in fact, have the resources that she needs to have the kind of economic development we need. We need to find more ways to lower the taxes in general. And when we look at a project like any of the ones coming down the line, we have to feel that we can look the voters in the eye and say, we've done everything we possibly could to make it as affordable as possible. And we also have to educate the community on those things. The most important thing for me is the engagement of residents. And we need to reflect their values in what we're doing because we are representatives. We're elected to represent the entire town. And so we have to go out into the community and not expect the community to come to us, which is one of the things I really like about CAAL is that you've done a very good job of bringing us to your community. But we as select board members have to do better about that. I was one of the people who led the projects back 20 years ago, where we talked about one of the most important things is better communication with our residents. And from that came ultimately a public information officer. But just relying on sending out emails is not enough. What matters is to do things that bring the community together and to go to where they are to tell them about what they want to know and ask them how we can better serve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. So Patrick, so remind you each have 2.5 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so I think the values we all share. One, we want excellent schools. Two, we want superb municipal services, including the library, etc. And three, we want to maintain the character of the town, the trees, the sports field, etc. I think the challenge, which is really in one sentence what leads me to be in this race, is that to achieve this long term, you absolutely need to have long-range financial planning of our budgets. Because major decisions we make today, such as building Bloom or not building Bloom, rezoning 228 acres for MBTA or not rezoning that amount of acreage, have deep, profound implications, which in 10 years may be too late to fix, and therefore will jeopardize some of the values that I see. And we need to do all of this while increasing taxes as little as we possibly can. Why? Because we want to keep people of lesser financial means in this town for purposes of diversity, and because that's frankly morally the right thing to do. And so I'm particularly happy that more of our neighbors are Chinese Americans and Indian Americans and immigrants of all sorts, because I find that these people understand that data-driven analyses over the long term, which unfortunately in America we do too rarely, businesses look at next quarter's profits, for example, is simply not the way to go. And so on the select board, I would make this my key focus. To give one example, the schools, which represent 80% of our budgets, right now spend about $3 million too much because elementary classrooms are 22% empty. At the same time, on Walnut Street, residents need $20,000 to put in some speed bumps to slow down the trucks that go down the street there, which is very narrow, and which could literally cause deaths. And the select board hasn't fixed that yet. If I was on the board, I would immediately fix that.
Thank you, Patrick. And Joe.
Thank you, Paul. So we have a lot of shared values. Several of them have been mentioned already. For me, having a collaborative community, one that is inclusive, that brings all of us together so that we can hear each other and grow from each other, is my primary core belief. Around that is our strong support for a valuable educational system, understanding what it needs and how to provide for it now and in the long term. We have rich historic traditions that we have a responsibility to sustain, and sustainability in general is something that has been close and dear to my heart, both in driving policies that have driven us to creating sustainable buildings for the town, for creating valuable reusable energy supplies for our electricity consumption for all of our residents, which have saved our ratepayers tens of millions of dollars since we put it in place, for working on economic growth in a way that is fits with our community, both by increasing the vibrancy of the center, by changing some of our policies, like making it possible for a wider range of businesses that attract people. We've worked hard to adjust our liquor licensing to allow the sip and paint type stores, galleries, movie theaters to be able to do wine and cheese events that bring people and keep people active. Focusing on how we keep large-scale commercial growth in our industrial areas like Hartwell and Spring Street and Hayden Avenue, so that the commercial real estate tax revenue, which brings in the largest increase in tax revenues, is incentivized. Businesses go through commercial cycles. Sometimes they are building, and other times there is a downturn, like we are seeing right now in lab and office space. But that is cyclical, and our goal is to create the environment so that they can come and provide us with that growth. And lastly, working with the state government to create the opportunity for us to provide programs to reduce taxes for our residents, like value tested, means tested systems for reducing taxes on those residents who are in deep need. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Vinita.
Well, I want to say thank you for asking this question, because when I started this campaign, the only thing I could think of is what are the values that will guide me, because I believe in this kind of role, in any leadership role, if your values are right, then you will be led by, in taking the right decisions, because the issues and topics in front of us change every day, right? And so I'm really glad that you asked this, and it's very easy for me. So I'll probably give you some time back in this segment. So the first most important thing for me is that we are a multicultural and a growing town, right? And we want to continue to grow and modernize, right? So it's very important for me that every voice is valued, especially the most marginalized and the most vulnerable feel that they have been heard, right? And very linked to that is the concept, because we are multicultural, is the concept of unity and diversity. When I started my first town meeting race, I think Wicked Local had interviewed me, and I talked about unity and diversity, that because we are a rich town with a lot of talent, and we should tap into it. There's immense talent here, right? The second thing that's very important is, the end of the day, it is a town, and we are talking about people's lives and livelihoods and their quality of life. So we must be fiscally responsible to be able to weigh the long term with the short term, the capital with the operating, right? And create sustainable growth, right? And the third, which is very important for me, is we should do all this in a very positive and constructive way. We will have problems every day of our lives, and sometimes they will be unforeseen, and sometimes they will be our own mistakes. So we should be able to listen to each other, and we should be able to work through these problems. And I think the key word for me is collaborative and constructive, right? Because everybody can solve, point to problems and say, this is an issue and somebody created it. But we really need to get into the solution mode and say, well, how are we going to solve for it? And how can we leverage everybody's talents? So those are my values that I will lead with.
Thank you, Venita. So now we're coming to the second question. Of course, it's the same question the entire town is talking about. That's the MBTA zoning issue. And so, we recall the town meeting 2023, we passed Article 34, right, to comply with the state requirement under the MBTA Community Zoning Act. And fast forward 2 years now, we have the upcoming Article 2 to scale back. So what happened in your review? And how did you vote for Article 34 in 2023? Knowing the current status, would you have voted differently? How will you vote for Article 2 next month? And what will you do, if elected, if Article 2 passes or does not pass? Thank you. So this time we'll go with Patrick first. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, I was not in town meeting when Article 34 was voted on, so I didn't vote. The reason was that I was busy publishing my ebooks as Plunkett Lake Press after being in town meeting for a long time and having tuned out. So what's interesting for me about, and second, should I be elected as a town meeting member, I will absolutely vote yes on Article 2. I really want to salute what Vinita said about values. To me, what's important is not to go back and blame people for the wrong votes they cast in 2023. What's important is to learn what it means, what the events that happen mean. And what they mean to me is that we have an absolute need to institute in town government in a structured manner, the details of which, frankly, I don't know yet, systems whereby every time an important decision, be it land use, be it how the schools operate, be it how we organize police patrols, you name it, anything that will have impacts on how many employees we have in town and therefore what the expenses are, we need first and foremost to do some long-range financial analysis of what that means, because we may very well not realize that we can't afford to do what we think we all want to do. And so I believe we all learn from each other, as Vinita very wisely said. And that's what I want to contribute, because as a former consultant with the Boston Consulting Group, as a former math and physics student, this to me goes like breathing. You know, I can't think if I don't do this kind of analysis. And I believe in a collaborative spirit that I can, frankly, for those of my 4 colleagues on March 4th who perhaps not everybody knows about everything, obviously, who perhaps don't have the same instincts about these things that I happen to have, my foremost role would be to help them and hopefully convince them of the importance of doing this and of doing it smart. And I think we're fortunate to have a new town manager on board who, based on the 65 minutes I had an opportunity to sit one-on-one with him, appears to also understand these basic things, which I'm sorry to say, while I was tuned out, I think were not understood properly enough, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Patrick.
Again, Vinita, really thank you. What you said, I think, is really important.
Thank you, Patrick. Now, Jill, can you answer the second question? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So let me start by saying I support the change to the zoning bylaw to satisfy state law and bring us more control so that we can reduce the rate of growth. That I don't know what will be on the floor, right? What we have in front of us is an article and a motion that is being brought to public planning board hearings for discussion, and there may be modifications. The intent of what's there, I agree with, and I will support that. What comes to us will be known when we come back to town meeting on March 17th, and I will cast my vote then. And I certainly hope that what comes to us is a motion that achieves the goal that I just said. How did I vote? I voted in support of Article 34, and let me explain why. We didn't just pass MBTA zoning because the state was requiring us to. For years, we as a community had talked about the need to create incentives for a diversification of our housing. We had been seeing for decades that the dominant construction in town was increasingly large single-family dwellings. And certainly those were appropriate for a number of our neighbors. But there were certainly other neighbors who were moving into those because they had no other choice. And we were hearing all the time that we are looking for a broader range where people could downsize to stay in town. They could move into locations that were adjacent to retail, restaurants, walkable to bus service and the like. Those were the motivations moving us forward. We underestimated the speed at which developers would capitalize on the opportunity. We also underestimated the resistance other communities in the state had for adopting, which meant Lexington became an early adopter that was an attractive location. Finally, we didn't realize, and no one would, that the lab office space market was collapsing, and that builders were changing their interest in what they were going to build from that kind of commercial space into the kind of housing we're seeing. I support moving forward. I support us looking at this over the next several years so that we're sure to have the kind of development that we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Venita.
Yes. Okay. So Article 34, I voted against it. And I have to say that I was very conflicted about it on the floor because I obviously very strongly support building housing diversity in our town for all the right reasons. And so voting against it was a little bit, it was difficult. But as we went through the debates on the town floor, my realization was that I needed more information in terms of best case, worst case scenarios. And I also felt that we had the time. So I felt we could take that additional time and evaluate this further, and we could feel more confident about this. So I didn't feel confident voting then, not to be understood as that I don't support housing. So one learning for me is that I was obviously right in my analysis that we needed to like a little more time. But before we start throwing people under the bus because they voted for it, I think it was a very well-intentioned plan. I think it because also aligns with a comprehensive plan, and analysis was done. As somebody very rightly said, somebody famous said, it's very difficult to project things, especially about the future, right? So things can go wrong. Even the best analysts go wrong in projections. Any one variable can skew your projection, and if that one plays out, you are doomed. So we are seeing the impact of that. There is a factor that did not play out the way we had hoped or we did not anticipate, which is the overwhelming response of the developers, right? Maybe because we had restrictive zoning, so there was a pent-up demand, and we are obviously a very coveted market. So, and we have learned from that, right? So, and therefore, I really commend the team that really took the effort to put together a solution, right? And said, let's put together an article that will help us control this and bring it to a manageable level. So I support that attempt. I am very inclined to, support the solution, assuming it meets some of my criteria that are important for me. Primarily, it should be compliant. Second, it should it should be inclusionary, and third, that it meets our comprehensive plan goals of affordability.
Thank you, Venita. Dom.
Thank you. I support meeting and exceeding the multifamily zoning requirements of the MBTA Communities Act. But I can say that before the town meeting passed the Article 34 in 2023, I had significant concerns about what was being brought forward and the consequences that would take place. And as leaders, especially on the select board, it is important that we both are in touch with the community about the type of development that we're looking for, and that we are responsible in stepping up to comply with the law. So what I did at that point was I brought together a coalition of people who had differences of opinions on how to deal with this. And at that time, we fell just 6 votes short of passing the amendment, which would have significantly rolled back in the moment the amount of acreage. Rather than taking that baby step, we were going 4 times the amount of development, which was not necessary at the time. So I did do that. I can also say that those 6 votes short included a unanimous vote from the select board and a nearly unanimous vote from the planning board. That to me is a failure in leadership, for not to step forward and say, we better take this slowly before we go implementing as broad as we might possibly do. And so, we have now taken a serious gamble that has put our town in serious financial jeopardy. And we are seeing the consequences of these decisions, including an uproar from the community that I have not seen since pay as you throw. And we need to address that. And as everyone on this call knows, I am working with the citizen who has brought forth the citizens article. And we are, in fact, proposing something that does meet the and exceed the guidelines. It will give us an opportunity to take a look at slowly in subsequent years bringing in more zoning, but it will give us a pause, which we desperately need. And we put a huge gamble on this town, and it's a problem. And we know that there are investments that must be made in fire and emergency. We know that the water and sewer service is already reaching capacity, and we know that the $700 million school could be overcrowded before we break even. And so as select board, I will make sure that we have those conversations. And yes, I will vote for Article 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. So now we come to question 3, the final question. And again, just as everybody alluded to, it's going to be on our high school building project. So will you support the Bloom design for the new high school building project? If yes, why is it better than other designs? If not, what is the alternative plan to complete the high school project? And if possible, can you outline approach, timeline, a rough estimate of your plan if you have alternate ones? So this time we'll start with Joe.
Thank you. I support the Bloom design. This is the School Building Committee's submission to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA. And this proposal is the result of 2 years of work. First and foremost, it meets the district's educational plan. A proposal that doesn't meet that is not supported by the MSBA. MSBA projects are competitive. Only about 15% of communities that try to enter the pipeline are accepted into the pipeline. The pipeline we have entered is one that is for a complete replacement for the educational plan of the school district. The Bloom design is designed for flexibility. It has space for growth in phases should that be needed for about just under 3,200 students if we don't build additions, and to 3,600 students if we build the addition that the MSBA requires us to plan for. It's designed for improved safety with features not present in the current multiple building campus. It responds to community feedback by reducing disruption to playing fields. It responds to parent and student feedback by reducing student disruption, enabling current high school to remain operational until students are relocated to the new facility. It's the fastest transition, with students relocating to the completed new facility about 3 years after construction begins. This will be followed by 18 months of demolition of the old facility and construction of the relocated fields. It's cheaper and quicker to build than the options to create an MSBA compliant school on the grounds occupied by the current school. Alternative concepts that have been suggested by citizens don't satisfy the minimum requirements for an MSBA project. They don't meet the district's educational plan, and they contemplate multiple independent phases, process not supported by the MSBA. If we were to start a project that was simply to add another building, we would have to go back to the MSBA and ask to be in a different program and compete with all the other communities to try to get funding. So these are the reasons why I support moving forward with Bloom. It will provide us with a quality facility to sustain our quality education. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Next is Benita.
Okay, thank you. So I don't think we will debate that leadership in education is a defining characteristic of our town. And it's a valuable investment resulting not only in great education for our children and creating great citizens for the world, but it is something that also protects our investments in Lexington. It's also a community space. A school is not just for education, it's also a community asset that the entire town uses, right? And I don't think we will also debate that the current state of the high school building must be addressed with a sense of urgency, right? It needs to be brought to the 21st century standards of learning, and delaying it for plans with unpredictable costs and longer disruption period is not a trade-off that I think we should make, right? There's a concept called net present value, which is basically, if you apply that concept to what we are seeing in the decades of delay in building this high school, it's easy to understand why it would have been a fraction of a cost if we had done this 20 years ago, and why it will continue to be more expensive for us as we continue to push this forward, right? So in my opinion, and I think Joe has covered all the points, I won't go into the details, but the Bloom plan is the plan that offers the best combination of cost, safety, timeline, and disruption for our students. So, and therefore, and meets their requirements, which is a basic requirement. So I'm in favor of moving forward with the Bloom plan. That said, I am definitely very sensitive and equally concerned about the tax impact. Our residents are obviously concerned about it. And I can tell you that I will be a very strong advocate if I am elected to look at every cost element, scrutinize every element that has a cost impact, and see how we can bring it lower. How can we ensure that we comply with the ED plan and include only what is required, right? So as far as a Thrive plan, I think my biggest issue with that, in addition to some of the points that Joe has already made, is that there is a huge unpredictability of cost in that. We know what the first phase will cost, but we cannot, again, project what the second phase or subsequent phases can cost us. And there is no way that it's going to be anywhere close to what we are thinking, what the cost of Bloom plan is going to be. So for those reasons, I am in support of moving us forward with the Bloom plan in a cost-effective way.
Thank you, Benita. Dawn.
Thank you. So I am a strong supporter of education. I went through the public schools. My children have gone through the public schools. Family members have gone through the public schools. We have family members that are teaching in the public schools. I believe we need a brand new high school. I believe we can achieve this within the project's current timeline. It's ultimately the school building committee's responsibility. But I do think that we need to look at the costs here. And the increase of up to 10 to 14% on people's taxes is of concern to the public. I've heard members of the school building committee put forward that they are looking to get a vote of 50% plus one. I think that's the wrong approach. We owe the community who cares so much about public education more than a building that gets just the bare minimum support. And when I talk about engagement with the community, we need to build a broad-based support for a 75-year school. That's what we're talking about. And what I have watched in the school building committee meetings that I've observed many of over the last year and a half is that the school building committee talks about an issue, they take a vote, and then they say, is there any public comment? That is sending the message that you really aren't interested in hearing what they have to say. And we are never going to pass a debt exclusion that way. It takes more than simply the school community to vote for a debt exclusion. It's going to take all of us. I will use all the available tools to reduce the taxpayers' burden of this. In the last 10 years, our budget has ballooned from 199 million to over 311 million. The residential taxpayers are paying 75% of this, and we're pricing seniors and working families out of town. So I will do more to take the burden off taxpayers. I'll take a creative look at economic development. I have a proven track record with the visitor center, the award-winning Liberty Ride, tripling the hotel and meals tax. In fact, just this week, Governor Healy gave us more tools to be able to improve the hotel and meal policy. And I will come up with innovative policies that reduce the tax burden and get this done so that we can all vote yes in the timeline that's currently projected as one project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Patrick.
First, I'll second Dawn on what she said. The school building committee says it's listening to the public. From my personal experience, it is not. I've asked to meet with them, to tell them things that I've studied in great detail for now 3 months. It still hasn't happened. With that, I'll be far clearer than Dawn. I oppose Bloom. Why? because to me, it makes absolutely no sense to build a major facility that is supposed to last, I've been told 70 years, Dawn said 75, close enough, that can accommodate fewer students than we have today. People need to understand that the building, the Bloom design, is for 2,395 students. We have 2,405 this school year. And yes, there are ways to stretch the building by taking out the central office and replacing it with classrooms, and then by expanding some of the wings of Bloom. But A, we've never been told how much that would cost in addition to the $658 million that Bloom will cost. But more importantly, if we did that, the minute we did these two things, Bloom expanded will be just as crowded as LHS is today. So why spend over $700 million to be back to square one where we are now? Now, the strategic reason why Bloom is nonsensical to me is that the SBC has stubbornly refused to look at a true staged design, which would imply in stage one to demolish the foreign languages of the current LHS, replace it with a box of I don't know how many stories, and price that properly. And Vinita, with all due respect, you're wrong. We don't know the cost of that. The $243 million was, I quote, doodled. And it was doodled in an exchange of emails between our director of public facilities and our chief architect 3 weeks before the SBC voted for Bloom. So the main problem is that somewhere, somehow, I don't know how, somebody has been pushing for Bloom since the very beginning. And as a result, the SBC has not done the work that I always do when I don't know what's appropriate, which is to look at all the options. And I don't have a crystal ball. And back to what Vinita said earlier, as she knows as a consultant, when you don't have a crystal ball, you do scenario. You do scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, and you try to get the best data you have. For example, in Lexington, we have 0.55 students per household in our schools. That's the single highest ratio in Massachusetts. So obviously, we're a magnet for the schools, and therefore, obviously, if we open up buildings that are multifamily, they will be built. And that's what was not seen in April 2023. And similar things are not being seen now with Bloom, which is why, to me, Bloom is completely nonsensical and a waste of taxpayers' dollars, which is why I will oppose it if elected to the select board.
Thank you, Patrick. So we're now coming down to the closing remarks, and each of you will have 1 minute, and we actually going to be right on time for the Super Bowl. So we'll start with Benita. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for your time and attention today, the CAAL community, and thank you to the CAAL team for organizing this. I appreciate the thoughtful and very strategic questions. I'm familiar with the effort that goes into planning this kind of forum, so 2 thumbs up and congratulations, CAAL team. Thank you also to my fellow candidates for sharing their point of views. I hope I have been able to express that I bring a fresh perspective and an objective way of approaching things. We Lexingtonians face important challenges in 2025 and beyond. We need leaders who will bring new ideas, adaptability, and a collaborative approach. My business expertise, civic leadership, and immigrant experience have prepared me to serve on the select board with thoughtfulness and an open mind. I'm someone who listens, learns, and evolves, because good leadership isn't about having all the answers up front, but about working together to find the best path forward. I'm here to listen, to learn, and move forward together. Our success depends on working together as a community. Just like last night's Lantern Festival, where the dragon moves forward with collective effort, progress takes cooperation and humility. That's how I will lead. And I ask for your vote on March 3rd.
Thank you, Benita. Dawn.
Thank you again for having me here. As I've said before, Lexington faces serious challenges right now and needs strong leadership to meet this pivotal moment. I have a proven track record as someone who gets things done, who's someone who collaborates with people and brings together people with differences of opinion to reach a goal. And as your representative on the select board, I will address the consequences of Article 34. I will ensure that we build broad-based community support for a new high school that meets our needs and our community-wide needs. I will fight to make Lexington more affordable for all, and I will engage with residents in a meaningful way to ensure that we create policies that reflect our shared community values. I personally asked you for your vote on March 3rd and remind you that it's a Monday. And I also personally asked for your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Patrick.
Thank you again for organizing. I would like the Chinese American community to know that on typical election days, 85% of people stay home in Lexington, the birthplace of American democracy. That to me is a very scary number. So I really hope everybody in the community encourages their neighbors to go vote, number one. Number two, I'm very proud around 2005 to have been the person who encouraged my neighbor Henry Lau to run for Precinct 3 town meeting member, which he did. And I believe he was one of the first Chinese Americans there. I can't wait to see that we have 30%, which I believe is roughly the percentage of Asian Americans we have in town, of town meeting being Asian Americans. So I really strongly encourage the community to look at all the candidates. I am, as I said, very cognizant of numbers. I believe the town government has not done that well enough. And I'm very encouraged that our new neighbors who are moving in understand numbers, understand that money doesn't fall off the trees, and that we need to be more efficient, smarter in how we operate both on the schools and the municipal side of things. I hope you can give me one of your votes on March 3rd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Joe.
CalPAC, and to you all for attending today. As I've met with voters this election season, they've asked me, what do I see as key considerations for a candidate? And my response is, the select board is a collaborative body. We have no kings. A good member will seek and listen to community concerns, clarify issues for reasoned debate, work collaboratively with other key stakeholders, be respectful of residents, staff, and volunteers, lead the community where it is willing to be led, and abide by our collective decisions. My track record shows I bring these attributes to the board. I go out of my way to create opportunities for community dialogue. I respect democracy. I never threaten to prevent voters from voting on an issue. I'm Joe Pato. Thank you for your attention, and I ask for one of your 2 votes for the select board on March 3rd, and I ask for CalPAC's endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So this concluded our CAAL and CalPAC forum. And this moment, I would like to invite all the candidates who are running for these offices. If you're still here with us, many of you are, can you turn on your camera? So we'd like the entire community appreciate your running, and for your service. Yeah, let's see if I can do this. So everybody, and then maybe Melanie, can you thank you for, timekeeper, you being the one you have to be on camera the entire time. And,
So I would like to thank all the candidates who are spending time and share candidly your view for the hot button issues that will affect our community. And I also like to thank all the participants who spend time on the weekend to listen, learn, and make informed decision for the voting. Later today, CalPAC will have a discussion and make endorsement. Although we cannot endorse all the candidates, we appreciate your experience, knowledge, and you are willing to serve the community. And for our participants, maybe later we will have more opportunities for you to interact with our candidates. With that, I think that will end our forum, and hope you can enjoy the Super Bowl and do more shoveling of the snow.
And I'm impressed my colleagues in the other races are still here. They're very patient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
OK， so 刚才谁是那个 Steve？ 哦，我们现在先把 recording 停下来，等一下啊。